All right, good afternoon, Midlothian. Welcome to our last community update for January 2021. We have a lot to share with you today, but it's all very important information, so we hope you can hang on with us until the end. The purpose of our time together during community updates is to share with you information real time and to be as communicative as possible. So before we get started with our agenda, let's take a few moments to celebrate some MISD proud moments. Let me just say it's a great time to be a Panther and a Jaguar. Lots of students experiencing a great deal of success. Specifically, congratulations to Heritage High School choir member Isaac George for making All-State Choir. Congratulations to our MHS swim coach, Christy Rollins. She was named the girls coach of the district meet this past weekend. Coach Rollins started the Midlothian swim program 4 years ago and has done a wonderful job building that program. And speaking of swim, the Midlothian High School girls swim team, they are your 14 5A district champs, first time in school history. So way to go, ladies. Congratulations to our MHS JV2 boys. They won the Zane Walker Memorial Tournament this past weekend, and our MHS boys and girls soccer both opened up district play this week with big wins. Also in soccer, Heritage High School girls soccer team won the Birdville tournament. So I'm excited to say that all of them keep up the great work, and we look forward to you bringing home additional hardware. And if you haven't heard, our MHS and Heritage High School basketball teams are rolling. All 4 varsity teams won district ball games on Tuesday night, and they continue to lead their respective districts. We're looking forward to the MHS upcoming theater production at Frozen. It's going to be February 11th through the 14th. Very exciting time for our theater program, and we look forward to that production. And also, we're proud of our elementary number 8 naming committee. They have kicked off and are working hard. The nomination form for the naming of elementary number 8 will go live to our community February 1st on the MISD website. So be watching for that next week. Now to jump into our agenda. Last night, our board interviewed 2 superintendent search firms. As you may have seen from our board president, Matt Sanders, there was an email just a few moments ago. The board unanimously selected Walsh Gallegos as the superintendent search firm. The next step is to finalize the contract between the board and the firm and finalize the calendar of events and the schedule. They are excited to begin this next phase of the process. Also, on behalf of the board, they're incredibly appreciative of your support as they search for a new superintendent for Midlothian ISD. This week was TASA Midwinter, that's the Texas Association of School Administrators Conference, where Texas administrators come together to learn from experts and our peers. Of course, this year it was a virtual conference, and our very own Leslie Garicani, our Chief Technology Officer, was asked to present 2 different times on our technology preparedness as we have had to navigate COVID-19 and what we did right as a district, but also what are our lessons learned. And so we all knew Mr. Garicani was the best, and so we're glad everyone across the state had the chance to get to experience that as well. Additionally, we had some amazing speakers, including Simon Sinek. He was the keynote speaker on Monday. If you have not heard him, read any of his book, or listened to his TED Talks, I encourage you to do so. He shares so many nuggets of information that really gives us some food for thought. My personal favorite nugget from this week's keynote was when he said, "An infinite-minded leader will make the right decision for the long term." And this comes from his book, Infinite Games, where he studies the process of finite and infinite style games. It really spoke to me because of how it relates to the world that we're currently in. The more he studied, the more he realized we are surrounded by infinite games, moving rules, moving targets, and we cannot be finite-minded leaders when working in an infinite game setting. So we all know that oftentimes we're in a complex world where the rules change and the end goal continues to be fluid. So I appreciated Simon Sinek's message and learning this week. We also heard this week from the Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath. His main points that he made include legislative priorities in the 87th legislative session that's currently going on. He also said that House Bill 3 will be funded again, and the importance of formative assessments to inform instruction and address gaps. And that really what we're facing with our students right now during this COVID-19 situation, it's not about catching them up, which applies more and more pressure to everyone, but it's more about unfinished learning. And we are here to work together to strive towards that finishing learning for all. He affirmed also that the work we're doing in MISD to build a design team in the coming weeks to really look at solutions for a potential virtual learning experience in 21 and 22 next school year is the right direction, simply because the vaccine rollout is taking time. And even the pediatric vaccine is further behind than is being distributed for adults right now. So he encouraged all Texas districts to be prepared for a moving target as we move forward in preparing for the 21-22 school year. Speaking of vaccines, yesterday, actually, I think it was Tuesday of this week, Judge Little announced the launch of the Ellis County Vaccine Initiative. It's a countywide partnership of the public and private sector established to obtain additional vaccine resources here locally in our county. And under this initiative in Ellis County, in partnership with the city of Waxahachie, Baylor, Scott and White, and other local jurisdictions, they're working with the Texas Department of State Health for our community to be a COVID-19 vaccine hub provider for the Moderna vaccine. Through this coordinated effort, the countywide initiative is actively working to increase the allotted COVID-19 vaccine count in Ellis County as fast as they can. Currently, that state is still in, or our current state is still in a 1A and 1B phases for the vaccine distribution, which includes direct medical care, which also includes our school nurses, long-term medical care, and in persons age 65 plus or persons age 16 plus with a chronic medical condition, including a pregnancy. So what to look for next from our county is a registration software for eligible residents to receive a COVID-19 vaccine from the hub. That's being under review and we finalized hopefully later this week, first part of next week. And the county is currently awaiting the allotment award for the vaccines from the Department of Health. So we're all about student opportunities. Our students in our incubator entrepreneurship classes at the Mile started giving their first round of pitches yesterday and are continuing today. I look forward to going over there in a little bit to see the next round. These students have worked over the course of the school year to identify a problem or service missing from their community, develop a solution, work through a community mentor once a week to create a business plan, and they're now asking for funds to create their minimally viable product, what they call their MVP. So students will take feedback from these MVP pitches and work towards their final pitch in May, where a board of investors will award seed money to start a business, an LLC. Our student ideas range from cooled shoulder pads to mallets with interchangeable heads, to hybrid compression apparel and a skate park site app and more. These kids are innovating ideas to solve real world problems. Thank you to our mentors. It's an incredible opportunity and really a great program for the future of MISD. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Shore Heathcote, and she's going to provide us some information in regards to a COVID update. Dr. Heathcote?
Thank you, Dr. Carpenter. So our new active COVID cases remains pretty steady with about 7 new cases each day. We have 2 campuses over 1% right now, and we continue to monitor all active cases, looking for connections within specific classrooms or specific activities to best keep staff and students safe. If needed, we may close off a classroom and switch them to virtual learning for a period of time, or close an activity group and pause their participation in order to be proactive in our efforts to mitigate the spread. Hopefully you guys all received an email yesterday from your child's campus principal regarding President Biden's executive order for anyone flying from an international location back to the United States. With spring break coming up soon, I know that many of you may be looking at options to get away with your family, but we need you to know that if your child flies back to the United States from another country, he or she will be required to stay home for 7 calendar days and get a COVID test 3 to 5 days after their return. Even if your child tests negative at the 3 to 5 day mark, they must continue to quarantine for the full 7 days. If you're unable to get a test within 3 to 5 days after you've returned, then they'll be required to remain out for 10 days. But if you have upcoming international travel plans or any questions, please contact your child's principal. They'll give you all the necessary information and transition your child to virtual learning for the required quarantine time after an international flight. All right, Dr. Carpenter, that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. In this week's The More You Know segment, we want to take a few moments to hear from Mr. Garicani, our Chief Technology Officer, in order to share some facts and information with you in regards to our one-to-one Mtac device refresh. In the last few days, there have been some questions on social media and emails asking some great questions about our refresh process. As you may know or have heard, there's been a committee with about 55 stakeholders represented to provide recommendations. When we discuss anything that has this type of impact on every teacher, every student, as well as anything that has this type of monetary investment, we must look at every option for consideration because the impact is long-term on the investment. So doing our due diligence is the only way we can assure that we have the best decision possible. When there's an incredible financial impact, there are positives, but there's also considerations that we have to recognize. And the greater that cost is an impact to future staffing, future budgets, and future salary increases. So we're incredibly fortunate to have Mr. Norris and Mr. Garricani collaborating in their departments with our stakeholder committee to vet each and every option. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Garricani and let him share some facts and figures about the Mtac.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Carpenter. Good afternoon. As Dr. Carpenter mentioned, there are many things to consider in the device refresh. From the onset, let me be clear about any misinformation regarding teacher devices. In the last device refresh cycle, every teacher in the district received an Apple laptop and an Apple iPad. Teachers will continue to have Apple laptops. Changing that has never been a conversation. We also believe that teachers need to have what their students have. So a pre-K through second grade teacher would have an Apple laptop and an Apple iPad. If the scenario proposed to the board is approved for students grade 3 through 12 to move forward with Chromebooks, then teachers grades 3 through 12 would have an Apple laptop and a Chromebook. If the scenario proposed to the board is approved for Apple laptops 3 through 12, then the solution will remain as it is now, a laptop and an iPad for teachers. We'll also ensure teachers who use an iPad for a document camera will have that as well. We presented 3 scenarios to the school board at the January 19th meeting. One scenario, which was not recommended by Mtac, our Midlothian Technology Advisory Committee, was to refresh devices based upon our current device configuration. Our current configuration is iPads pre-K through 5 and MacBooks grades 6 through 12. There's a desire to have a keyboard-enabled device at lower grade levels. We determined that grades 3 through 5 should have these as these grades are assessment grades, with online assessment beginning in the year 2022. The Mtac, Midlothian Technology Advisory Committee, worked diligently researching and looking at the demo Chromebooks that we had within the district. One was a traditional clamshell style, much like a laptop, it just opens and closes. And the other is what they call a 2-in-1 convertible laptop tablet. The committee favored the convertible over the clamshell. So when we're talking about any of the proposed scenarios that involve Chromebooks, we're talking about the 2-in-1 convertible laptop tablet. When we convened our final meeting, there were many members on both sides of the Apple Chromebook debate. Altogether, it seemed evident there were those that liked the idea of moving to a Chromebook. There were also those that were very guarded and reluctant, but also would support the district decision. We collected proposals from several vendors on the Chromebooks and a quote from Apple for the iPads and the MacBooks. Every effort has been made to include in all proposals, excuse me, what is required for teaching and learning regardless of the device. One thing to note, and I'll show it here, I'm going to share my screen. One thing to note, and I'll show it here, is the tremendous difference in cost between the 2 scenarios. So this is a slide from the presentation that was provided to the school board on January 19th. As you can see, these are the 3 scenarios. This is the first scenario, which basically matches what we have now. And with our increase in enrollment, to do what we did almost 4 years ago is a cost of $12.1 million. The committee basically said, we don't want to do this scenario anymore. We want to move to a scenario where we have a keyboard-enabled device down to the 3rd grade. So really what we're talking about is these 2 scenarios. And when you consider this scenario here in the middle is an all Apple scenario, keep in mind, we purchased 11-inch MacBooks 4 years ago. Those are no longer available. So when we say a MacBook, we're talking about a 13-inch MacBook. And that's also reflected in this increase in cost. So $14.3 million is what the district is looking at under an Apple scenario. Additionally, this includes Chromebooks that would be needed for online testing. And I want to be clear about this point as well. I'm not saying that online testing cannot take place on a MacBook. You can absolutely test on a MacBook. The difference is that the MacBooks require that a member of my staff touch every device that a student intends to test on. And based off of information we received from our district testing coordinator, we anticipate needing to test up to 2,200 students at up to 2,200 students at any given time. This is just too many devices for my staff to prepare for online testing. In the third scenario, this is the Chromebook scenario, this cost is 6.9 million and it allows us to have an 11-inch screen. I'm going to stop sharing now. The district has had to absorb approximately $2.5 million in unplanned COVID-related expenditures. Mr. Norris, our CFO, and his team have worked very hard to apply any dollar in CARES Act funding or any other grant funding to try to offset that $2 million expenditure. But I can tell you we're not getting $2.5 million from the state or the federal government. We've also researched technology recycling opportunities for our current technology inventory, and despite COVID and the budget challenges, it makes sense to refresh now. So you may be asking, why are we doing this right now? We have a quote from a firm that would give us approximately $1.75 million for our existing inventory. Unfortunately, the longer we wait, the potential revenue from the sale of our current inventory is going down. And so that's also a consideration. I want to provide some background for the school board meeting that's planned for tomorrow morning. At the January 19th meeting, I included information regarding the Operation Connectivity funding. This is also CARES Act funding. And Operation Connectivity is related to providing a device to every student in the state of Texas. An addendum was released by TEA on January 11th, extending the deadline to purchase technology equipment from December 30th to January 31st. Essentially, they've been kind of releasing this money in waves and setting deadlines, but because of the political climate, just the change in the president, the change in the availability of funds, apparently they still have funds available, they've been extending these deadlines. And so on January 11th, they indicated that they're extending the deadline for application to January 31st. Mr. Norris and I, our CFO, we ruled out any possibility of making application for this funding because we've been hearing for quite some time that bulk purchases, technology purchases like ours, have a 4 to 5 month lead time. So there's no way we would be able to qualify this unless the state keeps extending the deadline. Following the board meeting, we contacted the vendor that we're looking to put forth if we go with Chromebooks to provide a status update. During the call, the vendor stated that inventory was available. Keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, we want to buy Chromebooks under any scenario, right? So if we go with Apple for 1-to-1, we still need a cache of Chromebooks to handle online testing and to make that process efficient. So what has changed since the January 19th board meeting is that the vendor has now indicated to us, hey, I actually have inventory that you can buy. So internally, we immediately started discussing whether or not we should convene a board meeting before the filing deadline of January 31st. So we contacted the board and they indicated and agreed that we should do this because the district stands to receive $520,000. This money's already been allocated to the district. We just need a qualifying purchase to go get the money. I also want to be clear that this funding is a 75% reimbursement, which requires a 25% investment from the district. So approximately $860,000, which matches the number in the budget line that we had already placed for the number of Chromebooks that we believe that we need for online testing. Regarding Chromebooks, it's true that many of the early models were not designed to stand the wear and tear that our students can impose on them. The model that we have proposed is a Dell Chromebook that is ruggedized, and after surveying 8 Chromebook districts, this is the model that comes highly recommended for students. Additionally, it may be helpful to know that depending upon the classes that students are enrolled in, 95 to 99% of the classwork that students do is web-based. The other needs are being addressed through proposed software purchases and virtual applications that can run within a browser. I hope this information helps to clear up any confusion. It's a difficult decision because it requires that we consider impact on instruction, operational support, and the budget. It just happens that the refresh cycle came up during this most difficult time. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Carpenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garicani. That was very thorough. We appreciate you taking the time to share that. As you can see, we're not leaving any stone unturned in this process. We appreciate the strategic efforts of all, and we look forward to moving forward. Before we wrap up this afternoon, we have announced our high school graduation dates for the class of 2021. This year, graduation has continued to be fluid due to COVID-19, but at this time, we will plan to hold the following graduations in this order. Thursday, May 27th at 8:15 for Midlothian High School, and Saturday, May 29th at 8:15 p.m. for Heritage High School. And both of those graduations will be held outdoors at our MISD Stadium. And finally, let's all give Dr. Kaylee McMullen an MISD welcome as our Midlothian High School principal. She is on campus today visiting with staff, and then at 6 o'clock tonight, she'll hold a Zoom meet and greet with parents. It will also be on Facebook Live to ensure it's as simple as possible for you to get to know her. And we're very excited that she has joined our district family, and she will officially start full-time on March 1st. So we look forward to that. Thank you for staying on with us today. We hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the sunshine. Have a great day.